Let me ask you something. Have you ever achieved something great, got a promotion, lost weight, started a business, finally got your life together, and instead of feeling pure joy, you felt this weird, uncomfortable tension around certain people in your life? Like something was off. Maybe someone close to you gave you a compliment that somehow left you feeling worse about yourself. Maybe a friend suddenly went cold when things started going well for you. Or maybe someone kept poking holes in your dreams every single time you shared them. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Not everyone in your life is rooting for you. And the most dangerous ones, they're not strangers, they're not enemies. They're the people sitting at your dinner table, texting you congrats, and smiling to your face, while quietly doing everything they can to keep you exactly where you are. Today, I'm going to show you 8 types of people who secretly want to see you fail. I'm going to break down exactly how they operate, why they do it, and most importantly, how to spot them before they drain everything you've worked so hard to build. Stay until the end, because the last one is the one most people completely miss, and it might be the most destructive of all. Let's get into it. Number 1, the insecure critic. You know this person. Every time you show up a little more confident, a little more put together, a little more you, they have something to say. It's never a direct insult. It's always wrapped in something that sounds reasonable. Oh wow, you're really wearing that? That's a bold choice. I mean, good for you, I guess. This is called a backhanded compliment, and the insecure critic has mastered the art. Here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. This person has a deeply unstable self-image. When they see you growing, winning, or simply being comfortable in your own skin, it triggers something painful inside them because your confidence is a mirror that reflects their own lack of it. So what do? They reach for sarcasm. They use criticism dressed up as just being honest. They find the one flaw in your achievement and plant it like a seed of doubt. Because if they can shake your confidence just a little, even for a second, they feel temporarily better about themselves. The key word there is temporarily. This is not a strategy, it's a compulsion. These people are not calculating masterminds. They're hurting people who've never learned how to deal with their own insecurities in a healthy way. How to spot them? Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. If someone consistently leaves you second-guessing yourself, your choices, your appearance, your decisions, that's not coincidence, that's a pattern. What to do? Stop sharing your wins with this person. You don't owe anyone access to your joy. Give them less material to work with, and watch how quickly their power over you disappears. Number 2, the narcissist. This one is the most talked about, and for good reason. The narcissist doesn't just want to see you fail, they need you to fail. Your success is a direct threat to their ego, and the narcissistic ego is the most fragile thing on the planet, even though it looks like the most bulletproof. Here's how they operate. On the surface, a narcissist can be incredibly charming, magnetic, even inspiring. They pull you in, they make you feel special, at first, but the moment you start to outshine them, challenge them, or simply stop feeding their need for admiration, the mask starts to slip. Suddenly, nothing you do is good enough. They minimize your achievements. They take credit for your ideas. They position themselves as the reason for any success you have and the cause of any failure you don't. They gaslight you into believing that your perception of reality is wrong. And here's what makes them truly dangerous. They are experts at making you feel like the problem. You'll find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do. You'll find yourself walking on eggshells. You'll find yourself shrinking, not because you've done anything wrong, but because the narcissist's entire survival depends on you staying small. How to spot them? Watch for a pattern of hot and cold behavior. Excessive flattery followed by inexplicable coldness. A tendency to dominate every conversation. An inability to genuinely celebrate anyone else's success, and a complete unwillingness to ever accept blame. What to do? This one requires hard boundaries, and sometimes complete distance. You cannot outlogic a narcissist. You cannot love them into treating you well. The only winning move is removing yourself from the game entirely. Number 3, the competitive underminer. This person sees every aspect of life as a competition, and they are always keeping score. When you get a raise, they subtly mention that their salary is higher. When you buy a new car, they talk about the one they're planning to buy that's better. When you share a goal, they one-up you with a bigger goal. And when you achieve something, they find a way to diminish it. Oh yeah, a lot of people are doing that now. That's cool, but it's not really that hard to do. You got lucky with the timing. What they're doing is called achievement minimization. It's a psychological defense mechanism. If they can convince themselves, and you, that your win wasn't that impressive, then the gap between you and them doesn't feel so wide. The difference between healthy competition and this type of behavior is simple. Healthy competition pushes both people forward. The competitive underminer only cares about pushing you back. How to spot them? Notice if someone consistently reframes your achievements as luck, timing, or something anyone could do. Notice if they can never simply say, "That's amazing," without adding a but. What to do? Stop competing. Seriously. When you remove yourself from their mental scoreboard, their behavior loses all its power. Focus on your own lane. Let them race alone. Number 4. The projectionist. This type is fascinating and deeply sad when you understand what's actually going on. The projectionist cannot face their own flaws, their insecurities, their failures, their shame. It's too painful to look at directly. So instead of doing the hard internal work, they project those feelings outward, onto you. What does that look like in real life? The person who constantly calls others lazy is terrified of being seen as lazy themselves. The person who accuses you of being selfish is usually suppressing enormous amounts of guilt about their own selfishness. The person who always says you're too emotional is the one desperately trying not to feel their own emotions. They're criticizing you for the exact things they cannot stand about themselves. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because sometimes the criticism has a grain of truth in it, which makes you internalize it. You start to wonder, wait, am I lazy? Am I too sensitive? And while you're doing all that self-examination, they've successfully transferred their shame from themselves to you. How to spot them? If someone's criticisms feel weirdly personal and weirdly consistent, ask yourself, does this actually describe them more than it describes me? The answer will often surprise you. What to do? Don't absorb their projections. Acknowledge the feedback. Examine it honestly. And if it doesn't fit, return it to sender, mentally, calmly, and without drama. Number 5. The chronic complainer. This one might not seem malicious, and honestly, it often isn't intentional, but the damage is very real. The chronic complainer exists in a permanent state of negativity. Everything is wrong. The world is unfair. The system is broken. People are terrible. Life is hard. And they will talk about it endlessly, to anyone who will listen. Here's the danger. Negativity is contagious. Science actually backs this up. Repeated exposure to negative thinking literally rewires the neural pathways in your brain, making it easier to think negatively and harder to see possibility. Spending consistent time with a chronic complainer doesn't just drain your energy in the moment, it gradually reshapes how you see the world. And here's the sneaky part. These people often bond with you through negativity. Shared complaints feel like intimacy. Venting together feels like connection. But what you're actually doing is co-creating a mental environment that keeps both of you stuck. How to spot them? If every conversation circles back to what's wrong, unfair, or hopeless, and if you always feel heavier after talking to them, that's the pattern. What to do? Limit the time and emotional energy you invest in these conversations. You can be compassionate without being a dumping ground. Introduce positivity into the conversation and watch what happens. If they can't follow you there, that tells you everything. Number 6. The victim. Here's one that will make some of you uncomfortable, because this type often presents as someone who just needs your help. The victim mentality person believes, genuinely, deeply, that life happens to them. They are never responsible for their circumstances. It's always the boss, the economy, the ex, the parents, the government, the bad luck, always. And because they refuse to take ownership, they are stuck in a permanent loop of drama, and the people around them, the caring, empathetic, helpful people, get pulled into that loop too. You try to help them. You give advice, they don't take it. You offer solutions, they explain why none of them will work. You invest your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, and nothing ever changes. Because change requires ownership, and ownership is the one thing they cannot give. Over time, this dynamic quietly exhausts you. It can make you feel helpless. It can make you start to believe that your situation is also hopeless. How to spot them? If someone consistently has a crisis, consistently rejects solutions, and consistently places blame everywhere but on themselves, you're dealing with victim mentality. What to do? Compassion, yes. Enabling, no. You can care about someone without carrying them, and you have to protect your own energy and forward momentum. Number 7. The envious one. Envy is different from jealousy, and the distinction matters. Jealousy is, I'm afraid of losing what I have. Envy is, I resent that you have what I want. And while jealousy can be managed, envy is deeply corrosive, both to the person who feels it and to the people around them. The envious person isn't just unhappy about their own life. Your happiness actually makes their unhappiness worse, which means, on some level, they need you to be less happy for them to feel better. They won't always say this. In fact, they'll often say the opposite. They'll be the first to like your posts. They'll say they're happy for you. But the passive-aggressive comments will slip through. The subtle put-downs will come out at exactly the right or wrong moment. They'll question your relationship, your business, your new home, your new look, not loudly, but consistently. How to spot them. Watch for passive aggression. Watch for sudden distance after your good news. Watch for the person who always seems slightly irritated by your wins. What to do? Don't dim your light to make them comfortable. That never works, and it costs you everything. You can have empathy for their pain while refusing to shrink because of it. Keep shining. The right people will celebrate you for it. Number 8. The Social Dominator. And here it is, the one most people miss. The Social Dominator doesn't operate through quiet criticism or passive aggression. They operate publicly. Their weapon of choice is humiliation, mockery, and social pressure. You've seen this person. They're often funny, genuinely funny. They're charming in groups. Everyone laughs at their jokes. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice that the jokes often have a target. And sometimes, that target is you. They roast you in front of others and call it just playing. They make cutting remarks and label you too sensitive when you react. They establish social dominance by making others feel small, because in their mind, the hierarchy is everything. They need to be at the top of it, and pulling others down is how they stay there. This is especially dangerous, because the social setting makes it hard to defend yourself without looking like you're overreacting. That's not an accident, that's the design. How to spot them? Pay attention to who laughs with you versus who laughs at you. Pay attention to whether the jokes always seem to go one direction. Pay attention to how you feel in group settings with this person. Small, awkward, constantly managing your image. What to do? Name it. Calmly. Directly. In the moment. That was a weird thing to say. You don't need to escalate. You don't need to match their energy. But you do need to stop absorbing it in silence. The moment you stop reacting the way they expect, the dynamic shifts entirely. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. These 8 types of people are not rare. They're everywhere. They're in your workplace, your family, your friend group, and sometimes, if we're being fully honest, they show up in ourselves when we're struggling. Understanding these patterns isn't about building walls or becoming cold or suspicious of everyone. It's about developing clarity, because clarity is protection. When you can name what's happening, you stop internalizing it. You stop thinking what's wrong with me, and start seeing the behavior for exactly what it is, someone else's unresolved pain redirected at you. You are not obligated to be the container for other people's insecurities. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to set limits. You are allowed to choose who gets access to your inner world. The people who are truly for you, the ones who celebrate your wins, challenge you to grow, and love you without needing you to stay small, those people exist. But you'll have a much harder time finding them and keeping them if your energy is constantly being drained by the 8 types we just talked about. So here's what I want you to do right now. Think about your life. Think about the people in it. And ask yourself honestly, is there someone in your circle who fits one of these patterns? Not to judge them, not to cut everyone off, but to see clearly, because awareness is the first step to change. If this video opened your eyes, even a little, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this message reach people who need it. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to understand how to build unshakable self-worth so that none of these people can touch you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because that's exactly what I'm covering next. Drop in the comments, which of these 8 types have you encountered? I read every single comment and I want to hear your story. Share this with someone who needs to see it. You might not realize it, but hitting that share button could genuinely change someone's life today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and protect your peace.